get to see this Travis brings the Chase Taka and there's no more, is there? Well, I guess I'm dead.
I hope really, really soon.
I'm not mad at you or anything. Like, I'm quiet. And that's not because I'm mad. It's more because, I'm a little perturbed now, because, like, I've got a lot on my plate. Auntie's threatening to send me to Arizona to a Christian compound where they're gonna
Oh my gosh. Oh
the
my
crap
gosh.
out of me. So, it kind of sucks.
Okay, if she's miserable with you there, then why won't she drop
So now
this?
I have to go through the court to try to emancipate myself, and then I'm terrified of leaving Violet alone, because if Auntie's going to do that to me, then I don't know what
Do I have
it
the...
kind of sucks for me, okay?
Okay.
Like, you see why I'm so
Car-
quiet?
Yes.
Like, I'm not mad at you, but I kinda am. Like, you...
Carpenter.
I mean, you really... I mean, you kinda... just left a lot on my plate here, dude.
Carpenter. I know, I should have listened to you from day one when you were on the bus leaving and saying, I don't think this is
Yeah,
a good
you
idea.
really should have. I really wish that you had. Okay, like... if you had just listened to me that once, I would have respected anything you ever told me to do the rest of my life. This was a really bad
Carpenter,
move.
listen, is it okay with you if I record our conversation?
No, it is not okay.
I asked
I don't
Carpenter.
mind. Apparently it's not legal. So,
If I have your permission, it's legal.
I don't. Well, I guess not. Whatever. I would give you permission, but...
Okay.
Well, record it. Go ahead, like I told you before, Carpenter. I'm not afraid of anything. That's recorded.
Bad is going to happen.
Well, okay, go ahead. You want to tell her why that we're trying to put you in a place?
Oh my gosh.
We need to wait and blow my brains out.
Okay, so we're
That
trying
has
to
to do with
find...
you guys.
Right, so we're trying to find care for you.
Carpenter, listen. I...
Sorry, okay, I'm a jerk. I'm sorry when you're on the phone. I'm just trying to put that out there. I'm not really mad at you, okay? I'm not.
I know.
I just don't really know how to deal with this.
I want to talk to you guys, so I don't want to,
I don't care where you live. I don't care what you want to tell them. I mean, I just don't care.
That's
The
it.
judge said to monitor just because
Because...
they don't feel guilty. But I don't care where you live. Well, I live in Washington. I really don't care where you live.
The judge said to monitor why?
It says monitor phone or supervised phone calls. To make sure you don't make us feel guilty. So that they shouldn't be making you feel better. Violet feels bad that you're sad.
They shouldn't be making me feel better. Whatever, I don't want to talk to you. I called to talk to my children.
Okay, but I don't care what you say.
I'm not. This isn't an attempt to make you kids feel guilty. This is an attempt for you guys to understand. I have not stopped since the day you called me and said you were locked out of the house and you slept under a boat. Okay?
I'll be locked out of the house. Truly. Now, didn't we just put him out since you're going to record? We put him outside while he was screaming and yelling profanities, and in 5 minutes we opened the door?
Okay. That's not what my son told me, and I did not call to talk to you.
Well, if you're going to record it, then I'm going to interject. Otherwise, put it recorded.
Okay. Okay. I really am doing everything I can. And
Is there anything I really can do, though?
yes, Carpenter, yes. All this has been so far, it just takes time. All this,
I'm not...
I'm telling you, Auntie has made accusations against me. None of them are true, and I have replied. I am waiting for a court date.
Okay.
That's what I'm waiting on.
How long will that take?
I have to serve you. I have to tell you that I am filing for emancipation.
From me?
You gotta tell, no, I have to tell everybody. Auntie, Dad, you.
From
No, not
who?
from you, but from everybody. I'm basically divorcing my family, so I gotta tell everyone. So yeah.
Carpenter, I will get you back here. Okay, I will get you home. I will get you back. I understand what you're saying. I get it. Okay. Violet, oh my dear baby, I can't tell you how long. Auntie has the power to drop it. There's a form she can file that she can say that she wants the restraining order removed because she was misinformed about what was going on in my life, and since she knows that I have a home, and that
The restraining order has been dropped since the day you and I were in court, which is why we could go out to lunch together, so there's no restraining order in place.
She could come get us or what?
She can't visit you, but there's
Well, then that's a restraining order.
no.
Yeah. If she can't visit us, then that's a restraining order, right? Or you don't let her have custody.
There's no paper for me to drop a restraining order.
yes, there is.
But you did drop it. You just said that you
April, you
dropped
can
it.
file a paper that says you were misinformed. The children want to come home to me. I have provided a drug screen.
Well, that's not going to happen. That's my point here. Like,
why won't she do that? Now that she knows that I had a home from the beginning.
you know why.
I did not initiate it.
You know
That is why. It was initiated in Nebraska. And it was your children come here or go to foster care.
What are you talking about? April, you told the courts that I was selling that. Oh my gosh. I was allowing. April, you told the police that my daughter was in danger of being trafficked, and so they took her away from me.
That's not what I said.
Oh, I heard a little something about that.
Did I say that?
I don't know.
No, you were there. When I
April,
said
that
I
is.
I don't know what you said.
Violet, you need to leave. Okay,
If that's what you said.
I need to talk to my children.
It was on the papers and that I did not say that.
It's telling me that you're looking me in the eye.
I did not say that. No, I did not. The person you bought the car from, why don't you do a Google search on him and see what his job is? See
April?
what he does on news.
Okay, if you want to talk to me, I would be happy to talk to you, but you're not going to talk about this with my kids. There.
Well, you hung up on me last time, and you don't need to sit and lie to him because
April,
I'm the one that has
I said I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about. You said I can talk about anything.
Right. But you don't need to lie if you need to know the facts.
April, I have not lied once. Not once. I am the only person in this family telling the truth. I would like to talk to you, Carpenter.
I'll quit talking. Say whatever you want. Or whether I can show you later what you want.
I don't care.
Okay.
And I'm indifferent here. That's
I would like to speak to Carpenter, please. Carpenter. Carpenter. Oh my gosh. If April can't be quiet, then I'm going to file papers for contempt of court because I am supposed to have once a week conversations with my children, and you will not answer your phone ever. No, I'm talking about her. I have called endlessly. I have called and called and called. I have not gotten my once a week phone calls.
You leave a number for me to call back. Can I call you back?
April, just let me talk to my kids.
You just asked me something.
No, I didn't.
Hey, if I'm in the shower, or like last night, I was running a weed eater, I got in the shower, and I went to church. You did not leave a phone number for me to have the kids call you back.
Okay, yeah.
So go ahead and talk.
no, Carpenter, I need to talk to Carpenter. I need to talk to you, Carpenter.
Yeah.
I have been waiting to talk to you forever. I mean, for over a year now. For over a year I've been trying to talk to you. If you recall, as soon as you got there, communication with me became very difficult. And they took your phone away several times. And every time you talked to me, you'd get in trouble. So I've been trying to talk to you for over a year. There are things I need to tell you. I love you so much. I understand. I understand what you're going through. I really do. I need you.
My family aside from violence, I am convinced no matter what, regardless of the crap that happens, actually loves me. Like, you know, I have to second guess myself with everyone else, so I just...
Are you allowed any internet use whatsoever?
Nope. Well, actually, she's gonna give me my phone back, like, so, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I guess I can. Yes.
Okay, remember the videos I sent you? I sent you a bunch from the same woman, and I said, you gotta watch these.
Yeah.
Okay, do you remember her channel?
Yeah.
Okay. That will help you a lot. So you understand. I know, but maybe you need a reminder, because you need to understand what's actually going on.
Yeah, I know what's going on, and I've decided to play the role of the stupid, rebellious, pothead teenager. But I'm doing. So, I mean, I don't know what, I don't really know what to do here, just that it helps, and I use it, but, yeah. Oh, also I quit using.
You talk, Carpenter. Tell me how you feel.
I already did.
Tell me more.
Doesn't matter.
It does matter.
It doesn't.
Carpenter, when I used to be able to talk to you without being monitored, you used to tell me so much of how you felt, and I listened, and you know that I listened, and I tried to come up with solutions.
But I don't feel anything. I just...
Are you still taking the medication?
Yeah. Can't totally agree with you and be super nice, or else I'm just, being violent or just brainwashed by it. You can talk to me, but I can't really think. I don't want to say much, whatever.
I'm sorry for my mistakes as a parent. Obviously, my mistakes are not,
You don't have to...
trafficking my children, but
I get if you make mistakes, and I don't care. Like, you really, sure, yeah, you made some mistakes, maybe, apparently, according to society's materialistic values, you weren't the best, but, hey, you cared about me, and you didn't treat me like crap for, being myself, and making my own decisions in life, so I don't really consider you a failed parent or anything, and your failures, I don't really care. Because you were a damn good mom.
well, you're a darn good son, and I like you and love you just the way you are. And I wouldn't change anything, Carpenter.
I know that. That's what I love about you. As a normal human being. They're a lot safer than these people.
I'm so sorry that you've had to be there this long. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. You don't really have to. I don't really want you to apologize to me, but Violet is looking down the barrel a lot more time than me here. And
No,
I don't
she's
really
not.
know how to explain to Violet.
No, she's not. No.
She thinks that you're going to get her back soon, and I don't.
I am. I am, partner. I am.
I don't even know if that's, possible.
Yes, it is possible, and it's gonna happen. Violet, you're coming home soon. I promise you are coming home soon.
Are you
I'm not just saying that.
sure that's a promise? Because where you want to listen. I mean, I'm not. Violet just left.
I'm getting my package.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm not saying much stuff, Violet. I'm you want to say. I'm just really afraid that you're making an empty promise to Violet and
I'm not making an empty promise. You both are gonna get out of there soon.
okay.
You guys also have a voice, okay? You guys have voices. You need to make them heard.
Not really. And we don't. Violet shouldn't have to do anything.
I realize that, Carpenter, but sometimes children get in situations where they do have to. You guys,
I've made mine pretty vocal. Not much salvage. So,
well, you know, when you went and saw the counselors at that place that you had to stay at,
yeah, I told all of them that I didn't even want to be released back to my aunt, and I asked all of them if I could get a phone call to you. I didn't get one, and guess who I'm living with?
yeah. Violet, how you doing, babe?
Fine.
Fine. I miss you. I love you. You know, Auntie said that you are sad because I'm sad. Is that
I'm
true?
what?
Auntie said you're sad because I'm sad.
That's not true.
It is.
She doesn't know how I feel, so she can't say that.
Does she ever ask you how you feel? Violet, you need to make your voice heard, what you want, okay? And don't be
I
afraid.
don't have much to say because I'm scared that what I say will be used against me.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say here. Correct, Violet didn't. Because
And anything that I say will be criticized.
Oh, baby, I am so sorry. I am so sorry, sweetheart.
And nobody asked a 10-year-old girl who seems like everything is fine how she feels about anything.
How do you feel? How do you feel, honey?
Arizona, so obviously that's kind of what I'm trying to imply without actually saying it. Dude, for real.
So what happens if Violet says how she feels?
Because people can use that against you or somebody and say that I'm like that because of you and my brother, and then I won't get to be my brother or my mother because they'll say that you guys are the reason that I feel like that.
Honey, how do you feel when you're with...
To be twisted.
I know that. I know that so much. Why don't you tell me first how you feel when you're with me and when we have our own place and we're not living at Grandma and Grandpa's and we have our own place with the pets and it's you and me and Carpenter. How do you feel?
This one's got it wrong.
Violet, honey, I promise you that I'm going to get you out of there. I promise it's going to happen soon, okay? Okay? I have prayed and prayed and prayed every minute of every hour of every day. And God is on our side. And God is going to expose the lies. And He's going to make things right. I've been praying that you guys would make your voices heard.
Yeah, well, if we do that, we're going to get criticized for it. And we're going to get and people are going to get upset at us for speaking and having our own mind.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm so sorry, guys. I am so sorry.
There's so much to talk about and explain that led up to the next legal action my sister took. And talking about it puts me in such a terrible state of mind. My biggest obstacle right now is time. Not only the pressure I feel to help my children as quickly as possible, but on March 1st, I'm going to be homeless. Homeless with 2 dogs, 2 cats, and 2 mice. I've got 10 days to finish these videos, send them to the handful of people I'm sending them to, and then look for a way to either come up with $700 so I can stay in the house I'm currently in. Not because that's what it costs per month, but because that's what I need to pay. I owe some back rent. Or figure out what to do with all of our belongings and where I'm going to park my car that I will be living in. And it'll have to be somewhere that my cats and dogs can get out without getting lost or hurt. I have that car that I bought in Nebraska, and it has a massive coolant leak, and sometimes it doesn't start, so there's that as well. I realize that I have to have a home to bring my kids back to, and I will make something happen in time for that. But it's only because they've been taken on these false allegations that I'm in this situation. It's because I've been spending every minute working on getting them back, and I need to find employment that doesn't do a background check. I'm basically snowballing at a breakneck speed here. I have tried so hard and tried so many different avenues to get legal help. I've sold everything of value. I have very literally done nothing else aside from focusing on my kids and doing anything and everything short of prostitution to get them back. I don't know if anyone can really understand what I'm saying here, but try to imagine, if you have children, that they didn't come home one day. If they are older, if they're younger, they just disappeared. And how you would be feeling during the first few hours and days after they went missing. You'd be panicking. You'd feel ill, frantic, and racking your brain nonstop about where they might be or how you could find them. You'd be calling any and every place that might possibly be able to help you. If you did manage to eat during that time, it would be purely to be able to keep going, and you'd likely have to force yourself to swallow any food. If you managed to sleep during that time, it would be occasional naps just prior to passing out from exhaustion. Your clothes, appearance, and hygiene would never cross your mind. Focusing on anything else such as work, bills, due dates, deadlines, doctor's appointments, pets, upkeep of your home, and so on would be frustrating and burdensome, to say the very least. Now imagine being in that state of mind for 6 months. Except, if your child was kidnapped, then you could tell people that, and they would be understanding and give a little leeway, and if you had a normal family, then they would be there for you, being supportive and taking some of the load of what to do and the load of life and finances off your shoulders. But in my case, my children were somehow legally kidnapped. So not only can I not state the truth of the matter, that my children were kidnapped, to those that are hounding me for money and expecting normalcy out of me, but I also have the stigma that they must have been taken for a good reason, and I must have been a bad mother. And I have absolutely no family to turn to for even moral support, let alone financial or physical help in any form. And imagine while you're going through this experience, not only do you immediately lose all of your income, but because of what the kidnapper, the person who you know is abusing your children, because of what they said about you, you cannot get employment and you lose your home. You have to pack and move just weeks after having moved and unpacked. Then you have to move again, and then 2 months later move again, and then you become homeless. And all that you care about and all that you can think about is doing whatever you can to get your children away from the psychopath that kidnapped them and is abusing them every day and destroying their minds and their souls more and more with each passing day. I can tell you that every single time I have awakened from sleep in the last 6 months, I have immediately been filled with dread. Not once have I opened my eyes to my reality after some sleep, and my first thoughts were not, no, I can't do this. I can't live like this another day. From a selfish perspective, it would be a blessing if I just didn't wake up. But anyways, on to the following events. After she lied and had my son committed, my sister, I'm going to call her April from now on. She's not my sister any longer. After she lied and had my son committed, she took his phone away permanently. I was only getting to speak to my children a couple times a month. During one of my calls, my son said he was going to get his phone back, but he never did. My sister just kept saying she couldn't find it. So I asked if she would let them have phones if I sent them each a phone, and my kids told me yes, she would. Keep in mind, especially after listening to that recording you just heard, that she is sitting right there supervising the phone call, interrupting through all of it. When I asked, and when my kids said yes, I imagined that they looked at her and she gave a head nod or some reason for them to believe that they could have them. Otherwise, my kids would not have said that they could. I saved up and spent $300 in order to send them phones. I wanted them to have iPhones specifically so that I could use a certain program in hopes of being able to monitor them a little bit. Before sending them, I asked them 2 more times if they were sure that they'd be allowed to use them. I thought it was odd that she was actually going to let them have phones. And again, she's sitting right there. If she was not going to allow it, then she had 3 separate opportunities to jump in the conversation like she loves to do and say, no, I didn't say they could have phones and I'm not going to let them. When they arrived in the mail, she took the phones and did not give them to my kids. Weeks went by, and on each sporadic occasion that I got to speak to them, I asked why she wasn't letting them have the phones, After many weeks, we had this conversation.
How are you doing, Carpenter?
Not great.
No? Why?
Wish I was living with my mom.
Have you guys gotten to use your phones yet?
No.
Not yet. But we might get them. If we're good.
If you're
Better.
good? If you... How have you not been good?
I don't know. We are kind of obnoxious. So.
You are not obnoxious. You are not obnoxious. You are a delight.
No.
There you are.
So, nothing else is new? What do you want for Christmas?
I'm kind of leaning towards asking for a laptop, but that's a little much. So.
Oh. It might be a bit much, but I don't see how you'd be able to use a laptop there if you can't use a phone.
I can use a phone. I have a phone. I just can't find it.
But I sent phones for you so that you could play Roblox with your friends, so that you could watch YouTube videos, so that you could, you know, play games and stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's a privilege that you earn, and we gotta earn it.
But her kids both have phones. So in the last 4 weeks, you guys have not been good enough to use your phones? Is what you're telling me?
No.
Apparently not.
There's been a lot going on over here, so there just hasn't really been time to get it established.
There's nothing to establish. That you just, you know, pick up the phone and you start playing Roblox, you know?
Well, I mean, it would have to be checked. I mean, it would have to be checked for minutes or something.
I already explained that the phones are outdated. They're phasing those phones out, so you cannot even put minutes on it, even if I wanted to.
Well, still, other things than that, it's just gotta be checked.
But she's had 4 weeks.
It's been really hectic out here.
What's been going on?
The cart not ran away, like tried to go to a concert and...
That was one day.
And, a little bit of drama here and there, and figuring out what to do for Thanksgiving.
And
Lots of stuff.
kind of busy was trying to take me to court.
So do you have a hearing date for that?
It's like the 26th, right? I don't know what date it is.
Have you
I
asked?
thought it was.
Next Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, it's next Tuesday.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you asked for an attorney yet?
No, but I'm going to get one.
But when do you get to talk to him?
I don't know. I don't know much.
Wait, you mean this coming Tuesday?
No, not this coming Tuesday.
Oh.
Next. There's Thanksgiving break off.
Okay.
No, there's nothing going on with Thanksgiving break. But after Thanksgiving break, on that Tuesday. So are you really anorexic much?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Will told me you were once.
I have never been anorexic in my life. I love to eat. Carpenter, what do you want for Christmas?
A little bit of sanity in my life.
Oh, hopefully I can get that for you. Why did you tell me that they could have phones if you're not going to let them have them?
Okay, that's not what I asked you, and I never said they could have phones. You went through a 10-year-old girl.
During one of my phone calls, my son hinted that he was worried about someone being around my daughter. He didn't say who, and as I started to tell him that he needs to tell someone, a teacher, or any adult other than me, April immediately hung up the phone. I called CPS, and lucky for me, because it was after hours, I got to speak to someone that I had never spoken to before and who was not familiar with my name and not belligerently biased as all the other social workers I had spoken with were. This woman seemed to legitimately care about children, and much to my surprise, she did her job. She made a report. The next week, a social worker, a male social worker, I don't know his name, went to the house to follow up on it, and my son said that April wrapped her tentacles around him the moment he walked in the door, and that he didn't care in the least about anything that my son or daughter had to say. My son told him the same thing he's told everyone else, that his aunt is a pathological liar, she's crazy, abusive, and him and his sister desperately want to go home. He also told the man that his 19-year-old cousin was deeply disturbed, not just because he says so, but based on everything April had told him. And also that he's extremely concerned about him being alone with his sister, and that the way he acts around her is disturbing and scares him really bad. But my sister worked her sick magic, and so this is what the outcome of that follow-up was. I'm about to tell you, but I just want to reiterate that this is the outcome of my son trying to protect his little sister from a situation that he later described as, and I quote, scaring him to the point of shaking. And not only was he trying to protect her, prevent her from the very real possibility of being molested, but he was also trying to get a little relief from a massively heavy burden that he was and still is bearing. The burden of being the only one truly concerned about his sister's welfare, the only one that is physically present anyways. So after she told her fantasies and alternate realities to the social worker then educated my sister on how she could take my son to court to force him to be more obedient and prevent him from doing something like that again, from telling people about his concerns and about her abusive ways. To my sister, this was like, and forgive me for being crass, but to April, this was like having an orgasm, eating chocolate, and being crowned queen all at the same time. So it's called an ARY, At-Risk Youth Assessment, which basically goes like this. A parent or guardian can tell the courts whatever they want and use juvenile detention and probation and other police-enforced methods as punishment if a child does anything they don't like. The child gets a court-appointed attorney that they're told represent them, but as my son found out, they represent the courts and the pockets of certain agencies and couldn't care any less about the child. I'm going to share a story with you now that happened years ago, back when we had that home and life that we loved so much, back when my son was 10 years old. I also had this car that I loved as much as I loved my home. It was a Volkswagen Jetta station wagon with heated leather seats, and it was in perfect condition, low mileage. It had an incredible amount of space for dogs and taking trips and awesome gas mileage. It was the most perfect vehicle for a family and pets that I think even exists. It was the first and last time I have ever had a nice-looking, reliable vehicle. I absolutely loved that car. Anyways, without going into all the details about how he managed to pull it off, my children's father stole my car along with all of my savings. And then the day before Thanksgiving, he broke into our home and emptied the fridge and cupboards. Then he called CPS and told them the same old story of drug use, abuse, and said this time that my kids didn't even have food. Well, I dealt with that the same as I have every other time that he's called CPS, and they closed the case just like every other time, filing it as unsubstantiated. But being that Christmas was coming up and my son knew that I was strapped for cash, he went out one day telling me that he was just going for a walk around the neighborhood and maybe hanging out with his friend. But he actually went to the neighbors asking if anybody had any chores that he could do for some money to buy his sister and mother some Christmas presents. One of the neighbors that answered the door said that he didn't have to do any chores and tried to give him some money for nothing. My son refused to take the money for free and insisted that she give him some work to do for it. I know this because she ended up coming to my house later with presents for my kids and groceries that was all paid for by several members of the community after reading the story that she had written on social media about a boy that restored her faith in the youth. In her story, she said that after she gave him a job to do, expecting that he would spend as little time as possible and get it done in a few minutes, that she couldn't believe what he was doing as she watched him through the window. She said that he was taking such care to do a good and thorough job, going above and beyond to be respectful of her property, and after finishing the first chore, he asked if she had any more. He spent the entire afternoon outside in the cold, working hard for some money for Christmas presents. She said that on top of doing such a meticulous job and truly wanting to give her her money's worth, that he also had wonderful manners, saying yes ma'am and please and thank you, and that he was genuinely grateful for the money she paid him. She was so impressed with him that she wrote all about that afternoon on Facebook, and the story ended up being shared with a couple hundred people who all pooled some money together to bless us for Christmas. I also want to share a short letter that was written by another former neighbor. She was our neighbor more recently, and I asked her if she would write a character reference letter for me for court. Nailani used to be my neighbor. Her children, Carpenter and Violet, were two of the most well-behaved children I'd ever seen. I truly missed them when they moved. I found her to be a good neighbor and a very caring mother. I found Carpenter to be a unique child at his age. When he lived near me, he actually asked if he could help me work around the house. He helped me out all summer for free because he was bored. That's very unique for a young man. Violet would set up and playhouse on the carport, talking and singing as she played. She was happy. I know how she loved her dogs, and it breaks my heart to think that she is separated from them. I pray to God that this mess can be straightened out. These children belong with their mother, and I pray that the damage can be reversed. I've shared these two stories because my son was a good kid. I mean, a really good kid. He was, in all sense of the word, exceptional. If someone would have told me that my son would have a criminal record at age 17, I would have laughed and not believed it for a second. But my son now has a criminal record because of the lies from a mentally ill person, because he tried to protect his little sister. But not only does he have a record, he has also started using drugs and messing around with the occult. He's filled with hate and anger now. The last time I got to speak to him, he cussed me out and told me to stop trying to get them back because it only makes their lives harder. On November 9th, I received an email from my son. There was no content in the email, only the subject line, which read, "Mom, please help us." My son had figured out how to bypass restrictions on the school computer. I began receiving emails every once in a while, and there were some that were letters written to me, but the majority of them were written as if they were journal entries. My son had watched those videos I had suggested he watch about narcissistic personality disorders in order to help him understand the monster he was dealing with. One of the videos suggested journaling in order to keep track of reality due to the tendency of these people to deny their victims' reality and gaslight them. So he was sending me his journal entries. I'm gonna read those to you now. Hey, I know you say you're doing everything you can to get us out of here, but I can't take it anymore, and neither can Violet. She tells me she wants to kill herself. And the way Mitchell is around her scares me to the point of shaking. I feel like my soul is being sucked out of me. Screw that, I feel like my soul has already been sucked out of me. What little shred of myself I've been holding on to feels like my enemy now, because if I say what I think or feel, I suffer hours or days of being told how wrong and stupid I am, or she threatens to take me to court or send me away to a Christian boot camp. My brain just feels like mush, and when I start to think about things, I feel like I'm going to lose my mind, so I just try to be as brain dead as possible. Everything about these people is insane. Nobody thinks thoughts outside of what Auntie thinks. I mean, not really. If anybody has an opinion different from hers, she gets pissy and everybody pays for it one way or another. She puts guilt on me for her having to take care of us whenever she can. Like, she slips a comment into any and every conversation about what a stupid pain I am. Will could say he's hungry, and she could find a way to insult me in her reply to him. I'd like to talk to some people other than these people, some old friends, or anybody else really, but we can't do anything online because we might be trying to talk to you. Violet misses her friends a lot. She would feel so much better if she could just play Roblox, but she can't because you could get on Roblox and talk to her. I would be a little happier if Violet could play Roblox, because I know it would make her happy again. I mean, she laughs and jokes around, but she's not Violet anymore. Not the bubbly, happy Violet we know. My heart hurts and my brain is screaming all the time. I'm not trying to make you feel bad or stress you out more, but I don't know how much longer I can cope here. Just please hurry and make something happen before I have to pitch the last minuscule piece of my soul. I love you and miss you a lot. We both do. Violet misses the pets like crazy, too. She's scared that Gracie will die of old age before we get to see her again. Or Chase or Chaka. I try not to think about these things because it's really sad. Bye. Love you. The way that my 19-year-old cousin is around my 10-year-old little sister creeps me out. It makes me worry that he might do something to her if he's ever alone with her. No adults will listen to me about any of the abuse that goes on at my aunt's house. I only get to talk to my mom once every couple of weeks. When I got to talk to her a few weeks ago, I told her that I was worried about someone being around Violet. I didn't say who because I knew it would be very bad for me if I did, since my aunt supervises the phone calls. I'm guessing my mom called social services afterward because a CPS worker came over to the house asking questions. But still, he wouldn't believe anything I said and just ate up all the that my aunt told him. So he told my aunt what to do to get me to stop telling people that we're being abused. So now I have to go to court because I told my mom that I was worried about my sister possibly being molested. And since I told my mom that, my aunt won't let me around my little sister anymore. She implied that I might rape her. Why doesn't anyone but my mom care about us or even listen to us? So like my son just said, after I made the report to CPS and the caseworker came over, she said that to my son in front of my daughter, that to stay away from Violet because he could rape her. So she doesn't let them spend time together anymore. My aunt purposely sabotages my sister's good moods and gives her reason to be sad or angry whenever I come around my sister. She then tells me, straight-faced, that I am the one purposely putting her in a bad mood and that it's better when I'm far away from her. She does stuff like this whenever my mom calls too, and also deliberately starts making a bunch of noise so it's hard for us to talk to my mom. When my mom wants to pray with us on the phone is when my aunt really takes it to a new level. Like, as soon as my mom starts to pray, grabbing the remote and turning the TV volume as high as it will go. As soon as my mom called tonight, my aunt started dragging out Christmas decorations just to make my mom sad, make a bunch of noise, and distract my sister. Right now, she's decorating for Christmas, telling Violet to write a Christmas list, and she's acting all happy and fun because I'm not in the room. If I were hanging out with Violet right now, my aunt would be shitting all over her, calling her a narcissist or sociopath, or making her feel guilty for not meeting some ridiculous, unspoken expectation. By this time, in December, my sister had seen my blog, and because I referred to her and my mother as narcissists, she started calling my daughter a narcissist and a sociopath. This morning, my 10-year-old sister made the mistake of pointing out that a character on my aunt's favorite TV show looked weird. She spent the rest of the day getting screamed at, gaslighted, called a sociopathic narcissist. Very shortly afterwards, it being Thanksgiving, my aunt complains that nobody's helping her in the kitchen. My sister offers to help and is told to work on the cake. Shortly after she began icing the cake, our aunt began screaming at her again for not caring about anybody else and how she only cares about icing the cake. My aunt left the kitchen yelling something along the lines of, "Fine, 7 other people eating doesn't matter. All that matters to you is icing your cake." She told my sister that since she only cared about herself like the narcissist my sister apparently is, she had better stay in the kitchen and work on the cake. Less than a minute later, she started yelling at her again that she wasn't going to let a 10-year-old take over her kitchen, and she told her to get out. 2 minutes later, she called her in to help again. The next day, we went on, air quotes, vacation to the beach. She says that her vacations are all based around us and we don't give a damn what she wants to do, but it's the exact opposite. She's forced us to go razor clamming all day, every day. To razor clam, you have to get in the surf and stand there for hours, and it's late November. By the end of the day, nobody can feel their legs. She won't let us do anything. If we're out of her sight for half a second, she flips the lid and gets as many strangers as she can to think that we're selfish, autistic little snot-nosed brats. Ever since she saw my mom's blog, she calls Violet a narcissist or sociopath if she asks for anything. Just before our nightmare began, before my son left for Washington, we all went to Ripley's Aquarium together. Nobody wanted to go except my sister and my daughter. I especially did not want to go because I was sick. Back in part 1, when my sister was psychologically brutalizing my son, and she said, "No matter what I do for your mom, no matter how much money I spend, she hates me." The only money my sister has ever spent on me or my kids is when she has done things like this. She buys tickets to go to places that she wants to go to, and then puts people in predicaments where either they seem ungrateful and they have to feel like they're being rude and hurting her feelings and tell her no, they don't want to go, or they have to go. That's what she did this time as well. And even though I was firm and adamant with her this time that I did not want to go, because I really couldn't. I was so sick. She had already told my daughter that she bought the tickets and got my daughter all worked up about going. So I either had to trust my sister and my dad to keep a close eye on my daughter in an extremely busy tourist town, or I had to break my daughter's heart because she was so excited already, or I had to go. So I really did not have a choice at all. And we went to Gatlinburg. And of course, she didn't just buy tickets for Ripley's. I found out on the way that she had also bought tickets for several other attractions. My dad had to pull over 3 times just on the way there for me to throw up. It was like having a really bad case of the flu with 105 temp and spending the day at Disney World. The aquarium is a long, dark tunnel, so packed with people that through most of it there's not even elbow room. So, like always in these situations, my daughter holds my hand and basically drags me behind her as she squeezes through people, moving like a snake with a sugar rush, jetting through the tunnel from one exhibit to another like the excited little 9-year-old that she was. It's not a scenario where a group of 7 people can all stick together, especially if everyone has different interests and likes different things. But my sister gets these ideas in her head of precisely how she wants an experience to be experienced, and when anybody wavers from what she had imagined, she becomes a toddler more or less. She's been this way since we were little kids. Anyways, I was the very last person that should have been charged with the responsibility of babysitting my sister, not only because I had wanted to go the very least and because I was very sick, but because I had a young child to keep an eye on. And call me crazy, but I just kind of think that the young child's preferences and her experience takes priority over adults. And to top it off, I was the only adult that was trying to deal with the fact that while in such tight quarters with hundreds of other people, my sister's 16-year-old son had an accident. The thing about that is, my sister's youngest, Will, or sometimes called Riley, has some form of Down syndrome. He's honestly my favorite relative. I do adore him. But he's never been taken care of like he should have been. He's never been anything more to my sister than a disability check and a great means of getting sympathy and attention. And he still has accidents when he's not reminded to go to the bath. And I was the only one of 4 adults trying to help him get into a restroom and get cleaned up. But none of that mattered. All that mattered to April was everyone doing exactly what she wanted to do, and when her expected experience began to unravel, she sat down on the floor of the aquarium and began screaming and crying. I'm not lying. People were tripping over her, and she was messing up the flow of a couple hundred people. But when it was all said and done, she managed to have every one of us scared to do anything other than what she wanted to do after that, purely out of embarrassment. So I know you're probably thinking, why would I let my son go to Washington with her after that? The thing is, she claims that she's blind. She's legally blind. My son and I have good reason to question the validity of her blindness, but whatever. So she claimed that while in the aquarium, because of the way the lights were, that she couldn't see anything, that she was totally blind and couldn't see where to go. The funny thing is, just prior to the aquarium, she climbed all the way to the very top of the space ropes course. Space as in it was black, was only glow-in-the-dark paint to find your way. The aquarium was much more lit than that was. But somehow, I was to blame for her shouting and crying in the aquarium. I certainly was not thinking clearly when I let my son go. The thing is, I thought this was something, I thought that I don't know, I didn't realize the gravity of her mental illness. I thought that she just had this thing with vacations. He wrote about the day that I left him with my sister, and it's titled, First Day of My Nightmare. My mom drove us to the bus stop and hung out for about 2 hours till the bus got there. She got on the bus several times before actually leaving to embarrass me with hugs and kisses. A little while later, I called her and told her that I didn't think it was a good idea anymore. I told her this because my aunt got weird after she left. My aunt has always been nice to me up till that point. and it wasn't like she was being mean to me. She just got weird and controlling and bossy. My mom told me to just give it a try and that I could come back anytime if I was really miserable. I called my mom many times on that trip, and honestly, that trip was a terrifying nightmare. But every time I tried to talk to my mom, my aunt would get loud and cause distractions or interruptions, and she would freak out if I tried to walk away to talk on the phone. It was only about a week after being in Washington that my aunt started being actually mean to me. She was just a totally different person once we got to Washington, even more than she was on the bus trip. A couple weeks after we got there, she wanted to build my bed. And she just treated me like shit on her shoes because the bed cost a lot to build. I remember leaving Lowe's with the wood and equipment to build it, and she was shaming me for something weird. I didn't really even understand what I had done wrong, and I called my mom while in the parking lot. This one is titled, "The Rifle That Shouldn't Be Here, Someone's Gonna Die." They own a high-caliber hunting rifle. They don't treat it as though it were a weapon that could go off and kill someone, and it's constantly scaring the crap out of me. I feel like I'm the only one thinking or behaving like an adult around here. I can't take a break from worrying about Violet. They have thrown it on the floor, piled things on top of it, stacked it on top of piles of things, have left it pointing towards kids, and have left it with unattended kids in the woods. They've stored it in the car, pointing towards passengers. It's been knocked over and dropped a lot. They stored it at the foot of my oldest cousin's bed, pointing out towards the hallway. It's most often kept in his room, and my aunt told me that he is schizophrenic and has attempted to kill her in the past, then tried to kill himself several times. He has schizophrenic episodes where he gets violent. This apparently does not give them reason to mistrust him with a rifle. However, if a doctor tells them I have anxiety, I can't be trusted with a phone. This one is written, actually, to me. Please get us out of here. I can't take it any longer. This is insanity. We both dread coming home. The atmosphere in this house is physically painful. There's just so much negativity. My aunt makes life a living hell for everyone except for her two devout followers, her oldest son and her ex-husband, who everyone, including her, agree behaves like a toddler, is wildly irresponsible, and who gets outright violent the minute nobody's looking. This family is a cult. I'm not exaggerating in any way. My aunt carries herself like some kind of high priestess dictator. She is a dictator. Any act of autonomy from my sister or me is punished. Anytime we show happiness, achievements, friends, or anything that isn't her doing, she gets angry and punishes us for something totally arbitrary and random. Or she finds a way to make us feel guilty for being happy. The only time she assumes the role of our, quote, parent is in front of people or when it's time to punish us. She's the most vile, disgusting human I've ever known. She wants everyone to think that she's a Christian and that she's this great parent that cares whether we socialize and do fun church activities. But when Violet asked to go to church when she didn't want to go, she started screaming at Violet, making her feel bad for asking to go and throwing things. She's just like a toddler when anything isn't what she wants. I managed to record some of her tantrum. At one point she yelled, "God is a nigger," at Violet.
Mitchell, don't ask me. Everybody does whatever they want to do around here. We don't put food in the sink. You know why? It goes down the drain. You know where my phone is? Or can you call my phone? I know you don't know where it is. I don't know what to do. She wasn't going to go. Through her freaking hissy fit. She's going to freaking get on stage and do it. I'm sure it's right. That's what we're all going to do. go.
This one is titled, Mom, Please Help Us. I don't know who else to turn to for help. Mom, we desperately need to get out of here. This home is psychotic. April is psychotic. One second everything is normal, and the next our feet are in the air and our heads are on the ground. Up is down, left is right, peace is war, etc. We never know what will or won't piss her off. You say anything with even the remotest ounce of opinion in it, and she will remind you of how incompetent you are and treat you as if you were less than dirt, less than shit. Nobody will listen to us when we try to tell them how unhealthy this home is. We hate it here. Please just get us out. I don't care how. I just would rather be home or anywhere else. Violet is depressed. I'm depressed. This sucks. Please, I'm begging you to get us out. I don't want to leave Violet. I really don't. But I really can't take this any longer. I'm considering running away again if you don't get us out of this mess. But this time, I'm not going to let myself get caught. I promise you that. Please, please, please get us out, Mom. I'm begging you. Last week when we walked in the door after school, my aunt started yelling at me and threw a bunch of papers in my face and told us to pack our bags because our dad was coming to get us the next day. She pulled her arm back like she was going to punch me, and when I flinched, she started yelling at me that she's never laid a hand on me, so how dare I flinch, and how I was in the wrong for flinching. And since then, because I flinched, she keeps using that to make everybody think that I'm like overly dramatic and a bad person somehow. I don't even understand how that could possibly be taken as proof of anything except that she does hit me. After we spent 2 days in even more panic than usual and being scared of living with somebody who we've never known except for the few times that he was in our lives when he was violent and outright psychotic, then she told us he wasn't coming. She doesn't give us any details about what's going on, and we can't ask any questions without her going completely insane and starting to scream for days because we don't need to know these things, we're just kids. As if it wasn't our lives. I won't go with my dad. I will run away and take Violet with me. Oh, and when my aunt and everyone left for court for the new restraining order she made against my mom for BS, she yelled that she hopes I run away while they're gone. But I know that if I did, she would call the cops and have me committed for more lies again. I'm sure this is her reason for saying that because it really appears as though she hopes she can have me locked away somewhere. My aunt is doing the same thing to Violet that she's done to me since I got here. Treats her like crap all day and then is really nice to her for a little bit and continually talking bad about our mom, brainwashing her to believe that all the lies my aunt has told the police and CPS and the judge are true. I see the effect it has on Violet, and it's disturbing. Since my aunt has succeeded in virtually eliminating our mom from our lives, Violet is starting to believe all her crap. My mom told me to read up on narcissistic personality disorder to help me understand what's going on, just to cope with living here, and I heard the term enmeshment, and that's exactly what my aunt is doing to Violet. Actually, she does it to her kids too, which explains a lot. So we haven't talked to my mom in like 3 weeks now, and she usually calls us Sundays just because that's the only day my aunt will let her call. Last Sunday I was waiting for her to call, expecting my aunt's phone to ring all afternoon, but my mom never called. I really wanted to talk to her though. Around 6 or 7 p.m. I walked by my aunt and noticed her phone ringing, but she had it on silent. She looked down at it and then just set it back down. I almost asked if that was my mom calling, but my aunt had been acting really weird all day, and I didn't want to engage her at all. We still haven't heard from my mom, and I've been dying to talk to her because of the ARY hearing that I had to go to. While I was at the hearing, a temporary restraining order against my mom was brought up. That explained a lot. So I was just laying here thinking about it, and it occurred to me that my aunt got the restraining order just so that my mom didn't know about the hearing. I'm so pissed right now, I want to scream and smash everything in my aunt's house. I hate her so much.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, I could offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love. When the evening shadows and the stars appear and there is no one there to dry your tears, I could hold you for a million years to make you feel my love. I know you haven't made your mind up yet, but I will never do you wrong. I've known it from the moment that we met, no doubt in my mind where you belong. I'd go hungry, I go black and blue, I go crawling down the avenue. No, there's nothing that I wouldn't do to make you feel my love. The storms are raging on the rolling sea and on the highway of regret. The winds of change are blowing wild and free. You ain't seen nothing like me yet. I could make you happy, make your dreams come true. Nothing that I wouldn't do. Go to the ends of the earth for you to make you feel my love, to make you feel my